appears that Scott Bessent, they're now stepping to the podium on Capitol Hill to talk about the big, beautiful bill. Let's listen into this here on Live Now from Fox.
What's the biggest holdup with SALT? The fact that there seems to be an inconsistency on the Republican position in the House and then the Senate.
I think that both sides are working through, and we'll have a solution to that next 24, 48 hours.
Secretary Bessent, do you have any updated information on the ex-date for raising the debt? Has that changed at all?
The only thing that would change it would be the courts interfering in the president's right to set the trade agenda, because we would have to refund this very substantial tariff income that if IEPA, the use of IEPA were overruled. And I would just add, had a very successful lunch meeting with the senators. I think that we are on track for hopefully for a vote this Friday for July 4th for the tax bill. President is doing peace deals, tax deals, trade deals, so he's done a peace deal. I think we'd have the tax deal done by July 4th, and then we can finish with the trade deals.
How are you convincing conservative members that this is not going to have a negative impact on the deficit?
I think it's through growth, and we are constraining spending and bringing that down, so the trajectory of the deficit to GDP will change.
Mr. Secretary, this is not passed now. When is the soonest that the debt, that we can see a default on the national debt?
Well, we are never going to default on the national debt.
Well, what would be the time?
Well, we don't give out a date, but I can tell you we're getting close to the warning track.
Is the administration satisfied with the way the Senate is treating the provider tax, which has become a big problem, I think, for some of the Republican senators? Do you think that needs further changes, or do you support the way that is?
Look, we've got a lot of expertise in there, especially with Senator Rick Scott, so I think it's being done in a very thoughtful way.
The administration accept the scaled-down versions of no tax on tips and overtime and that are in the Senate bill?
Well, I don't know why you'd call them scaled down.
They're small. Scores of them are significantly smaller than the House. There's $15,000, $25,000 caps, but they're small.
So I think that we'll see what happens between the Senate and the House. I am confident that what the Senate passes over to the House will move through the House pretty quickly.
Do you expect to have to call some of these members, especially if there's a difference between the Senate bill and the House bill, to try to lean on them to say, okay, this is what you guys have to accept?
I think we've had lots of pre-game meetings, so I think we're in a good spot.
Mr. Secretary, you say this is going to lead to economic growth, but even the CBO, as it accounts for economic growth, says it would add trillions to the deficit over the next decade.
Well, the CBO doesn't account for economic growth.
They had a
1.8% static score, or they have a spike and then down, which we at Treasury disagree with, CEA disagrees with, and I believe most Wall Street banks disagree with.
There were some recent reports that said that Social Security is facing a significant issue when it comes to solvency over the next less than a decade. Does this administration feel that Social Security insolvency needs to be addressed at some point?
What we feel is we have to get the short term taken care of, and then we'll take care of the long term. You can't deal with the short term mess we were left and before we get to the long term. And I will point out that it was a Biden administration rule that brought the Social Security problems forward a year.
Hey guys, there's time for one last question.
Will you be up here Friday night, Saturday night, maybe talking individually to some of these members as some of these amendments come together to try to get them on board if they have reservations?
Look, we're at Treasury, the administration, we're here for the members. President Trump's leadership on this has been fantastic. Chairman Smith in the House started working on this bill a year ago. Senator Thune has been very ambitious, so my sense is it won't come to that.
How involved will the president be in the final hours here?
President's been involved all the way. So thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, just listening in there, Scott Bessent talking about the big, beautiful bill, asking being asked about if he's going to have to call any members, as it already passed through the House. The Senate Finance Committee put forward their proposition to it, and of course they will have to see eye to eye before it gets to President Trump's desk. But we'll see what's to come with that, talking about the CBO that is getting a lot of notoriety in the last few weeks as well, talking about the additions to the deficit, some $3 trillion, to the deficit some organizations are talking about. So we're still watching and waiting here on Live Now from Fox.